Coming up next is a powerful panel on leveraging technology to meet your DEI goals. Please join me in welcoming Sumathi Sampath, who's the Global Head TA for Infosys BPM, Suman Gopalan, CHRO Freshworks, Anuja Ratan, HR Lead Indeed, and moderating this mega panel is Aparna Mittal, leading Diversity and Inclusion Advisor and Corporate Lawyer and founder, Samāna Center for Gender Policy and Law. She's also the member of Economic Times HR World Advisory Board. Welcome, Sumathi, Suman, Anuja, and Aparna. We're all set for this conversation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Very nice to have you join us in this absolutely scintillating panel today about the role that technology can play to leverage D&I at the workplace. I'm sure through the 2 days that we have planned for you, there is going to be a lot of interesting conversations on how technology has been an enabler for the HR teams as well. So whether we talk about L&D, whether we talk about hiring, whether we talk about data analytics, every aspect of the employee life cycle, really from pre-hire to resign or retire, gets leveraged on account of the abilities that technology brings to the fore. I also want to focus today's conversation on how do we pivot the existing use of technology to really move from an HR enabler to an D&I enabler. I have a fascinating set of panelists with me today who have worked across industries and have multiple years of experience, both in the HR framework, in L&D, talent acquisition, and of course, D&I. So I'm going to start with you, Suman, and welcome to the panel today. Suman, you've seen the landscape of the workplace change completely. And, really, before we get into the details of D&I for our audience today, would you like to see how HR in itself has changed, especially the hiring aspects and how the reach out is happening to more and more people and, persons who form the workforce in the long run? And then I can take it more forward and get into the D&I.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be a part of the panel and, be here along with some of my colleagues over here as well. Aparna, to your question, I think the whole HR and technology landscape has changed tremendously. If you just look over the last 20 years, right, I think approach to not just HR, right, how you look at employees has changed quite a bit. You went from, having sort of a personnel workforce to, looking at, employees as human capital. And now the biggest focus really is on employees and employee experience, right? So businesses change and the focus on HR changes. But the thing that you see in all of this is technology has been a huge enabler in doing all of this. And, I say that one of the places where technology is actually changing the landscape entirely is in the field of HR. The way we used technology earlier on was, primarily for data management, information management, right? So you saw that big ERP systems, HRMS systems, which was primarily the focus of technology in the field of HR. And of course, you had like performance management and all of that for which you use technology. Today, you look at the kind of technology that's available for employee experience and for us to do work. It's tremendous. Everything from, not only how you hire, in fact, how you market and reach out to candidates, right? To how you engage them and sort of, build your community of candidates, to how you hire, to how you onboard, how you engage, how work happens. Technology is kind of prevalent and, part of every aspect of it. And I think that's the part that's fascinating to watch in terms of the kind of transformation that's happening in the technology field itself today. And definitely that's also really changing how employees participate in the company, in work. And also it's really changing who participates in work as well. And so I've seen technology really enable not only good work, but it has allowed us to do good work for the employees as well. So it's something that I'm personally very passionate about.
Very good to know. Sumati, would you like to come in now and tell me what has been your experience? How has really technology enabled HR? And really, just to add to what Suman was saying, also focus on the reach out. When we talk about diversity, I think the diversity comes from the different people we can attract as an employer. And how can we reach out and reimagine roles in the organization? Things that were earlier not thought of, or communities you never thought you would be able to tune and bring in. How has really technology helped you tap into a wider talent base and really then help you comply or go forward on your DNI journey? Because the inclusion can only happen if there is a diversity in the first place, so to speak.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. It's quite interesting. I think pandemic situation is a wake-up call, right? Where we kind of used the technology to maximum. We are in the world of VUCA, right? Driven by SMAC. And this came, to the technology came more to the center stage when this pandemic situation happened, and we were all forced to use that. Today, all of us are working from home. How did we do it? Yes, initially we struggled. And after some time, I think it became to normal where we got used to working, remotely. Especially for a person like, for me, talent acquisition, initially I had a lot of problem, and, we had huge numbers, especially in Infosys, and there was a surge. Without technology, I don't think we would have reached to the stage, it's purely because of the support that we received, because you need to embrace technology, right? Because we are in the fourth industrial revolution, where technology plays a major role. So I would say that, this is something that's very important. And when you especially say D&I have also kind of, is an emerging word that's coming up, and a lot of initiatives have also been taken, right? For the past 10 years, we have been talking about D&I. And I see that going in the positive direction too. And and now the word DE and I, it's also now there, be it on hiring initiative, be it on, employee development, be it on learning space and on retention, it's all there. So I think we have, technology definitely plays a central role. And especially, now what I see is we have millennials, right? By in another 5 years down the line, you would see millennials, workforce raising. So they are raised by technology. Everything has to happen in an, click of a button. So of course, if you write from the hiring, sourcing, retention, it all happens right now. For example, the CV uploading has made a lot more simpler, be it on the social media or be it on LinkedIn. Everything happens in a click of a button, either through your mobile or through your laptop. And we also hear a lot of hiring happening within 1 hour, 20 minutes, 2 hours, and things like that. All this is not possible without technology. We need technology, especially, we are using platforms like, combination of artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotic process automation, and deep analytics to automate sourcing of resumes from all different sourcing channels, and used advanced resume parser technology, and of course, it does automatic matching and ranking of profiles against the job description. So it makes our life much more simpler. Earlier gone are those days where you will have to look at 10,000 resumes or 20,000 resumes to hire 5,000 profiles. So this kind of technology really helps in terms of assessment, in terms and filtering, and there is no less of manual intervention. So there is less of error, and also the bias that is there, especially when we talk about D&I, this eliminates all the bias that we have. So definitely, I think it plays a major role.
Right. I think, what I have seen in my own practice as a D&I consultant is that, while technology definitely helps you leverage scale and reach out to more people, and, Samāna, I'll come to you in a bit, about your own views about how the gig economy has really come up and different facets of reimagining roles at the workplace. But Sumathi, I think a lot of times where I have also seen that technology sometimes can be so robotic that it may miss the human element, especially on the hiring side. And I
That's
think
right.
that's why to assume that technology removes bias may be better, but it may not be completely flawless, because there are so many international studies that show that technology is also made by humans, and the kind of coding that's been done, the kind of feeding that has been done to pick out elements also has to be at a level where there is really no bias. Anuja, I'll come to you, and especially with your work at Indeed, what are the
You can't
critical?
eliminate the human touch. You won't be
Absolutely,
eliminating the human
absolutely,
touch. That's
absolutely.
absolutely
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. So, Anuja, I'll come to you. Now let's move a little bit more into DE&I. And I think a lot has already been said over the years about the importance of D&I. And I would love for the panel to really use their experience and talk about how to leverage D&I, and not so much about why to leverage D&I. I think because that's pretty much understood. So, Anuja, how are you seeing people leverage technology to really improvise their D&I programs, or the impact of the D&I programs that they have at their organizations?
Thank you for that question, Aparna, and thank you, panelists, for sharing your thoughts. Quite a few I align with, and our experiences on in DNI and tech, HR tech is quite similar. Now, when I say DNI or DNIMB, as we call it at Indeed, is to simply put, reducing biases and breaking down barriers. Okay, to help employees and help the larger society. Also. And technology should not be looked at replacing the human touch, but actually augmenting and enhancing it, as Sumathi just said. And it couldn't be a silver bullet or a panacea for all the evils that we've had, in the HR processes. But yes, as I said, it needs to enhance and augment it and help us in reducing unconscious bias. So one of the ways that we could actually leverage technology on is when we look at redacting or removing identifiable attributes like your age, name, gender, and putting resumes in the pipeline. We see experience have shown and studies have shown that the pool of diverse candidates increase. Okay, and as I also said, when the pool increases, there is more opportunity for this diverse set of employees or candidates to come into the system, okay, or contribute to the society. So talent is universal, however, opportunity is not. And technology is where the opportunity or technology is the tool can actually help us leverage this opportunity of bringing in more diverse set of employees and candidates into the system. So in the last 2 years of pandemic, we've largely seen that technology has been a game changer. And we've leveraged technologies. And if I look at Indeed experience, in the last 2 years, I see more candidates coming out of smaller cities where we were not really hiring from initially, when we started Indeed, because most of the roles have gone remote now. So there are opportunities for the largest pool of candidates to apply into Indeed and get the jobs. So that's one aspect that we've seen, good results on. Another piece that we could actually look at diversity when we talked about the identifiable attributes. The other piece that we generally don't talk about much is, the unobservable attributes like mindsets, diversity in personalities, backgrounds, and so on. And studies have shown that managers or organizations that actually encourage diverse mindsets and behaviors are likely to drive greater levels of innovation in the team and at large in the organization. So I think from a DNI perspective, technology is a great enabler and is a great leverage that we can look at, while we push our DNI agenda.
That's very good to know. And I think that's one aspect which I have been reading about a lot internationally as well, that the more you can mask out personal details from the CV, whether it's gender, age, caste, religion, it actually shows that the hiring pattern changes. And I think that's where I think technology can be an enabler, because it can really enhance the pipeline of CVs that come to you. And Suman, do you want to come in now? Because I know you have very interesting perspectives on the gig economy, and also how different kinds of people who were earlier not thought of as a fit in into the organization technologies has helped open the pipeline and bring them into the workforce.
Sure, sure. I'll give some real examples, right? So at Freshworks, we always believed in being inclusive. And I'll tell you why I say that. So when we started off, we were a small startup, right? You don't have a big brand name that the Googles and the Apples and everybody have. And so as a startup, when you're trying to attract talent, it becomes really hard because there is a talent pool that everybody goes after. But I like what Anuja said, which is talent is everywhere, opportunity is not. And so that is exactly the route that we took. And we said, for the kind of work that we do, it's not rocket science. And so we look for talent outside of the general pool that people look for. And exactly that, right? We looked at people coming in from, second tier, third tier cities and all of that. And many people, you won't believe it, didn't even have a qualification in engineering, but they are today some of the best engineers we have in the company, right? And that led us to believe that if you can provide the right opportunity to people who are really passionate about what they do, you can really unlock so much of talent. So we run something called as a Freshworks Software Academy, where we take children who come from backgrounds where their parents don't have formal education and pretty much work in the unorganized sector, daily wage, etc. And so we train them for 2 years in coding. And at the end of that, we guarantee that they will be some of the best coders that you can find. So that's a small initiative we started. And then when the pandemic hit and all of that, we found that we have the ability to actually expand that so much more using technology, right? So today we are able to offer it to students who come from so many different parts. And provide opportunities to all of them. So that's one example. But you look at what technology has really done to the unorganized sector. So much has been spoken about the formal sector, right? We all use technology to enhance the work that we do. But look at the unorganized sector. Today, you look at Ola, Uber, like your ride-sharing ones, that have really changed the face of transportation, right? And how we actually approach transportation as an industry. Earlier, when you thought about it, typically this would be a very unorganized sector, right? And today, anybody can become an Uber driver, an Ola driver, or a Rapido, or whoever, right? And we see people do this, for a living, even outside of formal work. Look at what it's done for women. You have so many startups that are really trying to bring in women entrepreneurs in a place and give them the opportunity. You have women entrepreneurs from Northeast India, finding a marketplace for their wares. You look at, you've had Naukri.com, LinkedIn, which is more for the formal sector. You have similar ones today for the unorganized sector. You look at how you employ plumbers, electricians today, very different. That is the power of technology, where it really can enable people to find roles that are much bigger and outside of what we've always had. And I think that's what technology can do to be much more inclusive, right? I think we speak a lot about diversity in terms of bringing diversity into the workplace. But if you look at inclusiveness in the economy and in the workplace, technology has just absolutely accelerated that. And that's what I love about what we're seeing today in the startup revolution with the new technology coming in. So many more people are able to participate in this as well, right? So that's fascinating for me to watch.
That's a brilliant intervention, Suman, because I think the biggest challenge for any DNI practitioner is that there are structural, imbalances or structural barriers for people to access the formal workforce, right? I mean, sometimes just the English in which a CV is written, somebody's CV may not get picked up, or a lot of the biases that we have, how is somebody dressed for the interview, how fluently do they speak in a particular language. I think it's more on optics and not so much on the inherent ability of the person. So two key takeaways from what Suman has said is that technology can water down a lot of the structural barriers towards access to opportunity. And the other thing, which I think is something that I must request everybody listening in, is to see the focus of learning and development and skilling. Because I think the point which someone is trying to make here is that you will have millions of people, and a lot of times our recruitment programs don't get the right talent because we don't know what we are looking for, or people may not be tooled in that manner. And how can technology really enable you to upskill people and get absolutely the right kind of ability into the workforce, or the people with the right potential into the workforce? Sumathi, would you like to come in now, especially with your experience? How, and I'm just going to tap in more into the employee engagement, learning and development, upskilling, all of those areas. How has technology really enabled that from a D&I perspective as well?
See, as you rightly said, learning and development played a very important role. We cannot get skills from, all over, and there can be dearth and there can be non-availability at times. And so what we did during this situation is we started reskilling and upskilling all our employees. And we know what the requirement is, because somewhere I felt that the pool where we were hiring, keep hiring, and the numbers, the demand and supply, where somewhere we were not able to match. So this is when the organization started investing a lot in training. So we started having something called skill tag, which is, for example, let's say analytics is something that, an F&A person could get trained more in analytics and have a skill tag, so that he gets a skill tag on completion of this training program. And then, later he can, he need not quit job, but he can shift job, internally, looking for a change, or if he feels. And plus there is also an additional incentive for acquiring that skill, what is need for the hour. So a lot of investment went on training, and all this training won't be possible without technology, with the support of technology, with all the app, and they can do it anywhere, anytime, with a click of a button, and with their mobile. So a lot of training programs went, and I think more than 50% of the workforce or employees did utilize the training and moved on to the other, where it was also a career move, or it was a lateral or a promotion. Then we also trained all our freshers and others, so that the pipeline was always ready and available. So I would say, and it also, we were also conscious about D&I or a D&I, because in any meeting any client meeting that I attend, this is much talked about. And we sincerely made efforts to ensure that, we attract the right kind of talent without any bias, keeping all the cultural nuances, and then different demographic and other location. So if you see, mostly in the industry, 43% of the DEI technology are used for TA. So that, there is, it's quite conducive for diversified candidates sourcing, and as I said earlier, in the selection process. And also this virtual training is becoming the new norm for the employee development. One of the significant determinants of the employee retention is, of course, employee development. Research also shows that 93% of the employees, would stay at a company longer if invested in their career. So this technology is making this possible for business of all industry, be it, as Suman said, Uber or transport or service industry, any industry. I think this is mainly focusing for their development or mentorship or career advancement through technology-based solution, virtual reality training anywhere, anytime. And so we have something called, for example, and I'm just quoting my own thing. We have an app called Lex, so at all level, any level, we are forced to take those training programs, so that anytime I can take that, and it's so highly effective, and and it has effective solution to provide employees with all the delight and experience. Even the employee benefits can be utilized, or embracing technology like intelligent automation can significantly help avoid all these employee benefit oversights or accounted source. So I would say that, not only in retention and employee benefits and employee recognition, one can use technology, and also, changing the work, the way that we work. Employee engagement is again non-negotiable in today's world of business. So especially the modern workforce wants to feel connected, in this virtual world, and it's even more imperative. So there's a lot of focus that happens in all these areas, be it retention, be it employee engagement. There is recognition or compensation or talent attraction. And we also get a lot of inputs through our exits too. So
no, that's good to know. And I think what I have really seen is that because the focus is inclusion, is really how, the learning programs on, say, LGBT inclusion, trans inclusion, including persons with disability, creating that kind of sensitization at the workplace and enabling programs that help people change, how they behave in the workplace. What is the kind of language they're using? Is the language inclusive? How can they change the way when they work with people who come from different diverse identities, whether it's socioeconomic background or religion or caste or whatever, factor of diversity it may be. Another thing,
as you rightly said, yes, we do have a lot of sensitization, be it differently abled or diversified background or other cultural nuances. There's a lot of training that's been imparted so that the managers also know how to handle and how to, look at this.
And I think my own grouse with the D&I practice for the longest time is that it was always focused on the big corporate offices, and it never really trickled down to every corner of the country. Some warehouse you have in the corner of the country, a factory where you have 30% of the workforce, or the language. You will do all the programs in English, but what if somebody does not speak English? So, what I have really, really loved in the past 2 years through technology is all the learning programs, whether they're technical learning programs or D&I based learning programs. They have brought in an element of, human touch, because you can talk to people, you can reach out to 2,000 people in 1 hour, you can change the language, you can have a direct touch point with people. And also a lot of the employment surveys that we are doing with companies, the feedback you get, you don't really have to go to your manager anymore to tell him or her what's wrong in the office. You can directly, at the click of a button on a portal or on some kind of a Google form, you can give your D&I inputs, and that can come back to the management in the organization. Anuja, I'll come to you now, and I think that's a topic you and I have chatted about in the past as well, is that when we talk about technology, whether it's HR technology or D&I technology, there is some kind of an apprehension related to the cost or of investment that will happen. And somehow there is this perception in corporate India, and corporate India is not just the large MNCs, but any kind of, organized workforce, that, this is something for the larger companies to do. And, even if we're seeing the kind of burgeoning startups in India, people don't want to even think of process efficiency, technology efficiency, till they reach 200, 300, 400 plus. What would you say to them, Anuja, and how can we make this more accessible to them as a leverager for their own work?
Thanks for that question, Aparna. My take on that is nowadays technology is very accessible to most of the organizations, be it, a 10, 12 member team or even thousands and lakhs size organization, because the basic technology of email communication is accessible to everyone. Okay, so I don't think we can actually say that technology is not accessible anymore. Things have changed and rapidly changed the last 2 years. And if you look at one of the studies that we did, there's been a 30% adoption in the tech in the last year itself. Okay. And technology adoption has actually been fast-paced by 5 years. So in the last 2 years, technology is all over, and there's no way that any organization, I'm sure, how small or large it is, could have escaped from it. Now, when I say that technology is accessible, and basic technology like email and email communication, you leverage that, and even the social media. When you hire, smallest of organizations are using social media to hire, be it LinkedIn, be it posting on Facebook, or even using Glassdoor for reviews and looking at the data from there. So it's been very accessible in my view. And the other piece is that technology is also made a big difference is collaboration and reaching out to employees. Though not many organizations, especially in sectors that are not new age sectors, the technology may not be very advanced, and they may not end up using collaborative tools like your Slack channels or Asan, but organizations are actually moving towards that, and that is also bringing a lot of people closer, okay, and making every one of us very accessible, be it your manager or be it your CEO. You can just Slack channel him and ask him questions and really bring issues. So I think technology is very accessible now. One of the ways that we've seen technology getting leveraged in the hiring space is that when you're doing virtual interviews, okay, and when I look at it through a DEI and B lens, if you structure your interviews and make it very, very skill-based and formal, anybody and everybody who comes in will undergo the same kind of evaluation, okay? And that's where you end up reducing biases in the system and make it much more inclusive organization. Also, one of the things that we've seen work is on interview panels. You can have panels with different mindset, with different backgrounds, different experience levels, and not one person deciding whether the person gets hired or not. That itself brings in diversity and much more broader view of evaluation of candidates. So these, as I said, these basic technologies are available to most organizations, how big or small they may be, and it's no longer a barrier. If I can put it that way for now.
Well, thanks, Anuja, because we're really deciphering that technology is available sometimes at very, very limited cost. And it's just about creative thinking. In fact, I just thought, you talked about Slack channels. You can actually have entire ERGs set up through that, where you can connect people with different kind of identities in the workplace. You don't have to physically go to another office to meet somebody. You can
right,
just
and you don't have to actually invest in very high-end
Absolutely.
technology. Okay, depending on the size and need of the organization, that should really determine what kind of technology tool you really implement in the system.
Absolutely.
If I
And
may
thank you.
add
Yes,
to what
Sumathi, please,
Aparna said, see, technology is no longer with the technology department, right? It is with all of us. It's moved to the CEO's office. It's with all of us. It's no longer with technology. And even HR has to have HR or digital and technology together. So I think gone are those days only technology division owned technology. Now all of us are expected to, embrace and work along with it. So
that's very good to know. Suman, I'll come back to you. And, unless you want to add anything to the previous question, you're welcome to do so. But I do have another specific question. So I'll put that out and you can answer both is, how are you seeing people use the data analytics bit to leverage DNI? I know that there are restrictions in India about the kind of data you can collect, because you should not collect data on caste or sexual orientation, etc., till you're very sure that there will be no discrimination. But in terms of the data mining, on exit interviews, on how much attrition you're seeing, how are you seeing that change in India when it comes to DNI?
I'll come to that question, but I like that interesting dialogue we were having earlier about accessibility of technology, right? And as I was reflecting on the discussion, the one thing that stands out is more than accessibility, I would say technology is now pervasive, right? So think about it. Earlier, technology was something that you mostly experienced when you went to office, right? That's where we all had our first computers, we had first laptop and we used software. All of that happened at work. Came much later into homes, right? But today you look at it, I think that's been turned around on its head, right? Everybody uses technology today. Think about the payments technology, right? The tender coconut vendor that I go to, he uses Paytm, right? Or Google Pay or Phone Pay, right? Any of those. You literally don't carry cash anymore. Think about the farm sector. So many apps that really helps them get better yield, right? So there's a wide spectrum of applications that is there. So technology, I would say, is pervasive today. That's one. Two, The thing that strikes me the most is use of technology in the personal space, I think has overtaken in many ways some of the technology we use at the workplace. And here's why I say that. Today, just think about our own lives, right? How much we use technology for, right? Everything we do today, whether it is calling a cab, buying groceries, ordering food, the thing that I hate most, which is my financial investments, everything is in an app on my phone, right? Not even on my laptop, it's all on my phone. So technology has eased our personal life so much. And that is the expectation that people have when they go to the workplace, is that you have similar technology that will make my work life easy as well. Because my personal life is so much enabled by technology and is so easy that they all look to the similar kind of experience in the workplace, whether it's applying to your company, whether it is onboarding, whether it's finding my way around, collaborating, they want it to be just as seamless. And I think that is what organizations are trying to do with the whole digital employee experience, is how do you create that superior employee experience by making work easy using technology, right? So that's where I would leave that conversation with, that technology is literally very pervasive. But to your point today on what kind of data do we use, right? There is so much of information available today, right? From your applicant tracking system that has data on who is applying to you, from where they're applying to you, the demographics of it, to how employees work, and looking at performance data with it. There is so much data that is available. Unfortunately, I think the mining and the analytics is still not as evolved, right? So a lot of times we do analytics to get larger themes, but there is huge possibility. And I think that's where HR technology is moving today, to make it more predictive in terms of performance, in terms of retention, all of that, right? Now, I will always caveat that with data can tell you always, if you mine the data enough number of times, or if you, torture it enough, it will tell you what you want it to tell you, right? And so that's where I always advise caution, saying data can support you, but and give you some hypothesis, but you cannot lose the human touch in that as well. Data can be hugely supportive when it comes to looking at key trends. What is working, what is not working? Are you really being inclusive? Like, one of the ways in which we use data quite a lot is to make sure we are removing all kinds of biases when it comes to pay parity, right? Earlier, it was very anecdotal. People will always justify saying, oh, so-and-so is at this pay because of A, B, C, D, E. And there's always a good reason. But overall—
or a bad reason. So
exactly, right? But now you have technology that is able to alert you and say that, hey, for the same kind of work, two people with different demographics are paid differently. And so we use that extensively to make sure that we remove all kinds of biases upfront, right? So those are the things that technology can enable you to do, but you just have to be careful that, you don't get misled if you don't have the right kind of analytics. So this is an emerging area, and I would say predictive analytics, because your predictive analytics is only as good as the data feed that you get and the data that you have. And a lot of times what happens is you're feeding in data that is already biased. And so some of the outcomes that you see are also biased. So there is danger in a lot of that. So that's why I always advocate caution when it comes to immediately looking at data alone and making decisions. But today, data can tell you a lot in terms of where you can do better, and we should use that more smartly.
well, that's great. And I think before I come back to Sumathi and Anuja for any final points, I think two key highlights which Suman you have brought out, and including in the previous point, is also the relevance of supplier diversity. When you talk about how, farm producers can really come to your home directly without having to navigate multiple, intermediaries in the middle, it can also leverage your supplier diversity programs, which is a core essence of D&I, because D&I always think needs to have a multi-thematic, approach where your funds are going, who are you hiring, you procuring your stuff from, and not just the HR aspect of it. And the other thing, in terms of, you talked about how people can be enabled to perform. I think for persons with disability, it has been a game changer. How technology tools can really help them perform much better at the workforce, and really remove a lot of the inherent biases that people had about performance abilities of persons with disabilities. I think those are two areas I'll request our audience to think in more detail and really see what more can be done to bring them into the workforce. Anuja, any final points? I know, we can continue forever. These are really fascinating topics. But I know that, the ETHR team has just flagged out the time to me as well. Anuja and Sumathi, any final points, anything that you want to add to either what we were talking about or the data mining or other aspects of the discussion? You're most welcome to.
So
Yes, Anuja.
technology is something that we cannot do without. It's all pervasive. It's all there. Okay, so that's something that we have to live with and leverage it to a large extent now. Now, whatever the size of the organization, there's always room to adapt existing systems to drive your D&B agenda. Okay, be it through your automation of time-consuming processes, and from hire to retire. I'm not looking at only hiring, but at every step there is an opportunity to make tasks which are very operational, repetitive nature, and use technology, to improve that, so that HR can actually focus on areas where they are needed most. Okay, to have real-time conversations, develop employees, and so on. Okay. Lastly, it's always important to measure the impact of your programs. Keep looking at what your data is telling you. Okay, reviewing it and doing a sense check whether what the data is saying and what you're actually seeing, is that correct or not. So I think these are a few closing comments from my end for now.
Thank you. Each one of them really packs in a lot, and I'm sure we can talk endlessly about these things, especially when you talk about a lot of stuff about how this can really percolate across the employee functions and how you engage with them and work at the workplace. Sumathi, all over to you now. Any final points before we call it a wrap?
Well, I'd like to say that technology is available for all of us. Click of a button, be to any industry, and all of us are, optimizing that is currently available. And as my previous speaker spoke, yes, it can dance to your tune, and data does speak for us. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists for sharing in a very small time, at least a lot of the key takeaways on how D&I has really changed with using technology. And I think sometimes you don't have to do a lot. You already have technology in the HR function. You just need to repivot it and make sure that it aligns with your larger D&I goals, especially on impact, as Anuja talked about, because once you measure what you're doing, it really makes your goal post more accessible. So thank you once again, and to the wonderful audience, thank you for your patience. If you have any further questions, the panelists will be available in the chat window. And of course, you can reach out and keep this conversation on D&I growing and reaching more and more people. Thank you. Have a lovely day ahead.
Thank you, Aparna, Anuja, Suman, and Sumathi for an interesting and a detailed session. Indeed, the foolproof roadmap to steer from these unprecedented times is what we discussed. Thank you so much for putting out such exciting insights on the table. Ladies and gentlemen, a gentle reminder to visit the expo area at your convenience. Explore the resources shared by our partners at the respective booths. Stay tuned for the next session, as there's much more learning and interaction that's coming your way.